It is your Tuesday daily delivery. I'm Michael Rand. Glad to be with you for yet another day and another good show coming up. Velle E. Neal III from the Star Tribune, columnist, will join me here in just a little while, mostly talking Twins, even though they are at the All-Star break right now. They remain a team very much in focus, in the news a little bit, maybe in the drawing the ire of a lot of us in the media and fans, just from the way the first half or the pre-All-Star break ended for them with the sweep at the hands of Baltimore. Really symbolic of kind of the up and down nature and the fact that they just could not get any offensive traction throughout the year. And it's kind of funny, too, because I think they were angling towards some positive vibes going into the break if they could have had a decent series against Baltimore, because they had won 5 of 6 going into that series, but then it just all falls apart. The wheels come off. They can't score. The pitching betrays them. All of a sudden, a lot of questions being asked of this team, and I brought a lot of those to the forefront with Velle. We will get to those here in just a few minutes. Major news for the New York Times. Get to that at the end of the show as well. First, though, what did I miss? Anthony Edwards in Vegas last night in the halftime, essentially, of the Timberwolves Summer League game. Timberwolves lost to the Jazz. The Summer Wolves lost to the Summer Jazz. Nobody really cares about the final score in Summer League, but some good things on display for the Wolves. But the biggest one being kind of the nature of what happened at halftime with Anthony Edwards and the extension press conference for his 5-year contract. And I was just kind of struck by a couple of things from it and just kind of thinking about it a little bit more. It wasn't a very long news conference. There wasn't a whole lot of drama to it at all, but just kind of thinking about this team, thinking about how the Wolves, maybe not exactly in this setting, but in a lot of settings, have talked about how they want to build this team now around Anthony Edwards, that every move they make now is geared towards him and, some sort of his timeline, his skill set, what he brings to the table. And he talked a lot about how he just wants to win. The money is obviously nice. His contract will pay him anywhere between $217 and $260 million. Unfathomable amounts, especially when you consider where this league has come from in the number of years and decades over that time. But as you think about how they're building this roster, if they keep talking about wanting to build around Ant, here's a point I want to make. If you're talking about building around Ant, then start building around Ant. I don't think the roster as constructed right now is very well built around Anthony Edwards. It's not necessarily suited to his timeline. It does not have the pieces in it that would make him grow his game, in my estimation. If you want to support Anthony Edwards in his ascent, put some more really good shooters around him. Find some more wings that can really shoot. Find your point guard of the future. I think Mike Conley is a nice stopgap, but you don't really know what your plan at point guard is beyond this season. Don't have $100 million almost tied up in 2 centers starting in the 2024-25 season when Ant's extension kicks in. They've got $96 million tied up in Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert starting in 2024-25. Add in Naz Reid, who they just re-signed in free agency. That's $110 million worth of ostensibly centers. I know that Cat is being asked to play power forward. I know that Naz Reid can kind of shift between the two. Gobert is the only real, true, can only play center in that group. But start building this roster around Anthony Edwards if you are saying you want to build around Anthony Edwards. Now, Ant, for his part, is saying all the right things. Like I said, he wants to win. And I thought one thing was particularly interesting. Towards the end of the news conference, Ant was basically asked about the fan base, how people have embraced him here. And, basically the question was, not since Kevin Garnett have people rallied around a Timberwolves player like they are rallying around Ant, which I think is essentially true, but could be seen as a slight to guys like, Kevin Love, Karl Anthony Towns, guys who have had good careers here and have been all-stars, who have signed big contracts since KG was here. I like Ant's answer to this question. Let's play that right now.
I think they got faith in all of my whole team. We got a great group of guys, man, and we're gonna get better, a lot better this summer. And like I said, they got faith in all of us. It's not just me. I can't do it by myself. So
it was a good, mature, serious answer, and I think that's a step that he needs to take this year. His maturity, his level of ownership over this team, being able to go out and dominate the bad team, setting a tone when the Wolves are playing those way sub-500 teams, not having the repeat of last season. Those are things that he still needs to do to grow his game. And the Wolves, what they need to do to grow this overall product is put a better team around him. I know they've got good players around him. Build a custom team around Anthony Edwards. I get that it takes time. You can't just snap your fingers. If this team has been built around Towns to a degree in the past, and now they're pivoting a little bit to that, figure out how you are going to make that happen and do it instead of just talking about it.
MGM Wine and Spirits is the choice for savings, service, and a great selection of spirits, premixed cocktails, wines, and of course, ice-cold beers and hard seltzers. With over 30 locations throughout the Twin Cities and beyond, there's an MGM near you. Head to MGMWineandSpirits.com to find a convenient location in your area. Get social. Follow MGM on Facebook and Instagram for all the latest news and trends. Make great moments with MGM Wine and Spirits, your locally owned and operated choice for over 50 years. Save time, save money. Shop MGM.
All right, let's bring in Velle E. Neal III right now. We got to keep talking a lot of Twins with Velle, even though they're on break. They are the hot topic right now. And Velle, of course, covered the Twins for a couple of decades and continues to cover them as a columnist now at the Star Tribune. Velle, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Hope things are well with you.
We're good. We're making it through the summer. It's been a fun summer so far. A lot of good stuff. Twins right now, Velle. I mean, I don't know. Royce and I kind of spent 90% of Monday show talking about them, and we're probably going to spend 70 or 80% of this segment talking about them. But I'm going to do this a little bit differently than Royce and I, because Royce is a little bit more meandering. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but Royce's style is a little bit more meandering. Have you ever noticed that about Patrick?
I mean, like the way he writes his columns? No, I didn't notice that at all.
And the thing I appreciate about you is your mind maybe works a little bit differently. I feel like if I can tightly focus you a little bit more than I can Royce. So I'm going to bring in five things. I've got 5 things for you on the Twins, and I want to hear. I don't even know if I need you to put a percentage on these, but I need to know what you think is the likelihood of this happening. This kind of gets us into a lot of Twins topics. So let's start with Carlos Correa. What's he's not had a good first half of the season. He's taken the fall for a lot of their offensive woes, and as the highest paid player, as one of the veterans, as a guy who's supposed to hit, a guy who had a WAR of 5 last year. You're expecting a lot from him after the big contract he signed. That's fair. What's your prediction? Where do you think he is in terms of second, post All-Star break? Do you see a surge, an offensive surge for Carlos Correa? Not like MVP surge, just like level he was at last year. Do you see that in him right now? Where would you put that as a likelihood?
I think there is going to be a little bit of a surge with him during the second half. It's not going to be as strong as it was last September when he really turned it on, because I criticized him in August when I think he only hit he was horrible in August last year, and I wrote a column criticizing him, saying that this is not what the Twins paid for. And then he went on to go bananas the rest in September and finished really strong. So, and I think the Twins were thinking they were getting that version of Correa when they decided to sign him, give him $30-something million a year. But that person has not shown up yet. And I think because he's pretty much been close to rock bottom this year, that he's going to eventually turn it around and start to produce. I am worried, Mike, about the fact that he's playing with plantar fasciitis. Yeah. That is a nagging injury. It's an overuse injury when the tendons in the bottom of your foot become inflamed. I've had it. I had to stay off of my foot for basically a month. I covered Shannon Stewart when he had it. He missed 50 games in the season. You can't tell me that his foot's not affecting him somehow, playing defense or running the bases. So that's my one worry with him. But I still think he's going to get it going. He's realized that he needs to make a change. I think his 2-strike approach has improved. He's willing to take singles to opposite field just to move the chains. He will take his shots, early, mid, and count. He'll still take his shots to go deep. But I've noticed that when he gets 2 strikes, that he's willing to just put the ball in play or just go the opposite direction with it. So I'm hoping that he could be the guy. Can he be the guy who hit 355 in last September? I don't know, but maybe he could be the guy who hit 283 in August. It was July he was over. He hit like 175 in July.
I'm looking at the same numbers you are right now, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm hoping he could be more than a 283 guy because, if he does that, that's going to make a difference in the Twins lineup.
Yeah, it's interesting just kind of looking at his splits last year, like I think you were too. He started out really slow last April, kind of the same thing he did this year. But then he really cranked it up in May and June and then slumped a little bit into July, but then August got better and September was really good. So he is a little bit streaky. You've seen that even this year, but man, they need him. They just, a lineup with so many, I don't want to say so many holes, but so many guys struggling, so many guys hitting 210, 212, 220. I know batting average is not the end all be all, but batting average, batting average impacts your OPS. Like it's how much, it's part of your on base. It's part of your slugging. Like if you're hitting that low, it's hard to have a good OPS when you bat 210. You're just not going to probably. You want to be up at least in the 250 to 280 range. So you're more consistently a threat. They just don't have enough of those guys. And Correa is kind of the symbol for it right now.
Well, Mike, you can, if you don't want to, you can placate the batting average is overrated people by just saying, okay, let's look at OPS. Look at the Twins OPS.
It's terrible.
Up and down. It's awful. There's guys not just under 800, but like under 700. I have not checked Christian Vasquez lately, but
it's like 550.
Yeah. So, but my argument with Vasquez was at one point his on-base percentage was ahead of his slugging percentage, which is hard to do.
It's
hard to achieve. So that's where I'm at with this offense. Is there's so many guys that have cratered at once. I had a conversation with another writer in the press box yesterday. Does Popkins deserve the blame for this?
Yeah.
And I think you have to take a look at it a little bit here to see. They tried to change the pregame meetings instead of him talking a lot and offering his suggestions or his data that they should act upon. The players are now talking amongst themselves. Is that an indictment against Popkins? But like I was telling the person in the press box yesterday, I'm not a big fan of firing coaches mid-season because who are you going to replace them with? I think what the Yankees are doing is incredibly risky.
Yeah.
Because they fired their hitting coach and they're bringing in not just someone from outside, but someone who was just sitting in a booth at the MLB Network
Sean Casey,
job to come in and try to resurrect this offense. He's got to learn these hitters. He's got to learn their characteristics. He's got to get a feeling for how their mind works because you got to be part psychologist with some of this. And for someone to come in off the street with that type of responsibility, I just think that's a big ask. I think if the Twins decide to move on from Popkins, they'd have to probably replace him from someone from within. Bringing a new hitting coach from outside, to me, I'm going to be watching this Yankees thing. Very interesting to see how it works out.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, the flip side of it is the pitching's been great. The 15 runs they gave up on Sunday to Baltimore, notwithstanding. The starting pitching's been the only reason, usually, that they are in games. The only reason that they're only a game under 500 now. The only reason that they're still in. Only a half game behind Cleveland in this terrible AL Central. For a lot of points this year, they've been number one in starter ERA. I think they're still pretty close right now. What is your percent or just overall sentiment right now, though, on some sort of regression from the starting staff? I'm willing to say a little regression is probably natural, but how worried are you that this first half was? The first 90 games is a little bit more mirage, and that's going to be tenuous, and they could come back to more like middle of the pack in the second half.
Well, I think you have to be worried about that. Actually, I'm writing a column this weekend about how the Twins may waste a great pitching staff this year, like they wasted a great offense in 2019.
Yeah,
because that would have been the year in which they should have really went for it to improve their starting pitching to help them make a run at the postseason with that offense. I think with this pitching staff they have, you can't expect them to have a 1.5 ERA as starters over a month span or whatever, like I think they just did before this 15-run game.
Yeah.
And expect that to be duplicated or extended or, like you said, sustained. I actually had a conversation with a Twins official a week ago. I ran into him over at CHS Field, and he mentioned the regression part. He says, we don't know if we can maintain this.
Yeah.
So it's more imperative for us to figure out what's going on with the offense.
Yeah.
Than ever. So they're worried about it. And, if the people who are being paid to make baseball decisions are worried about it, then I think the fans need to be worried about that as well. So, yeah, I would be prepared for some regression. And that, to me, actually makes the alarm sound louder for them to try to figure out a way to boost the offense or by calling up someone from the minors, which they'll likely do, or looking outside, which may be hard to do.
Do you see more upside in the progression of the offense than you see in downside in the potential regression from the pitching then?
When I worked in Kansas City, the mayor's name was Emmanuel Cleaver. He was a former minister at a local church.
Okay.
And his big phrase was, "You can't fall down when you're already on the floor." and so, to me, that's where the Twins' offense is at right now. It's pretty much rock bottom baseball.
Okay.
I know they're probably like 25th or whatever in OPS, whatever. But still, to me, that's awful, especially when you have guys who have track records. Buxton's been an all-star. Correa's been an all-star. Kepler's hit over 30 homers in the season. Polanco's been injured. That has not helped. Basically, the best thing going for them have been Edouard Julien, Alex Kirilloff, and when he's healthy, Royce Lewis. It's been the youngsters who look like they're going to be dangerous when they get to the dish, So I just think there's going to be a bounce back, that they're going to find some consistency at the plate and start put some more crooked numbers up on the board. And all they have to do is get to 4. I think they're 20 games over 500 when they score 4 runs. All they have to do is get to 4, not 5, 4.
Yeah.
Come on. You can just play the game the right way. If there's a guy on second base, move him over. If he's a guy on third with less than 2 outs, a fly ball's fine. Just put the bat on the ball. Good things happen when you put the bat on the ball. And a lot of times this team has failed to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And they're, that's the frustrating piece of it. And they are, they're stuck on, I think I calculated it now, 36 out of 91 games. So 40% of their games, they've scored 2 or fewer. And, they put up some big games where they score 8, 10, 12. So it makes the overall average look better. But if 2 out of every 5 times you're not scoring more than 2 runs, that is a hard way to live.
It is. I mean, you can't expect to win 2-1, 1-0 in Major League Baseball on a consistent basis. And I think they were 9-15 in 1-run games, something like that. I went back and looked at my column because someone said, "Yeah, your season prediction really looks great now, Lavelle." And I was like, "Okay, what did I write?" Oh, I wrote that they're going to win 91 games. But I did write that. Look for this team to play about 51-run games this year because they're going to be close. So
there you go.
I think I was on to something as far as the pitching staff leading the way. I just didn't think the offense is going to be this bad. But I still think there's going to be a little bit of a rebound. Modest, not robust, but still a rebound all the same.
So given all we've talked about right now, give me your take. What's the % chance they win the division? Because the analytics still say they're in good shape because I think the schedule gets softer and there's not a lot of confidence in Cleveland or anybody else. But what do you think at this point?
Well, according to the baseball playoff rules, that a team has to be called the division winner and go on to the postseason.
Yes.
It looks like the Twins may back their way into a division title this year, even though I hope they can get over 500. It'd be embarrassing if a team wins a division with a losing record. That would just be an indictment on, the Central Division, not just the American League Central, but the National League Central too. And just the people who long banged the drum about players go to big markets, players go to the coast. You don't see too many, really expensive players playing in Middle America. And that person had a point. I think you're seeing the result of that with the 2 Central Divisions. But I still think the Twins have a better than 50-50 chance of winning the division. Just because they've got something that I think Cleveland pitches fairly well, but I don't think their pitching staff is operating at the level that the Twins are right now.
No.
And even with the little bit of regression, I still think they can still pitch well enough and get enough offense to get it done. But I'm expecting the offense to pick up a little bit, and I'm hoping that Wallner or Larnach are up here to be part of it. That's the difficult conversation the Twins are going to have about where to add a bat. Because basically, a Twins person yesterday, I was over at the ballpark, said all three outfield positions. We could put a bat in all three outfield positions. Michael Taylor's been great as a defensive center fielder, but he's batting like Michael Taylor, right around 210. So they said if we wanted to put a stick out there, we could go left, right, or center. To be honest with you, it depends at the expense of who. Because, like I said, I want to see Larnach or Wallner up here. That would force Kepler to play center, and everything, all the indications I hear, say he does want to play center, that he's more comfortable in right. And to me, my comeback would be, well, you need to start playing like you're more comfortable at the plate, or you're not going to get a chance to play in right. So they got some issues here, but I still think there's enough here for them to win the division.
He doesn't want to play center. He can play DFA. That'd be fine with me.
There you go.
So okay, given that, I think this is I think you're onto a lot of good things here so far. But our colleague Patrick Royce on Monday's show said if they don't turn it around, if this slide continues, and they that would assume that they don't then win the division, which is very much there for the taking, that they finish below 500, which they are right now. Patrick's assertion is that he's not sure about who goes for sure, but he doesn't think that that Rocco survives it. What do you think about Rocco Baldelli's job security if they don't win the division and if they finish below 500 again for a third year in a row?
It's going to be interesting. I mean, Jim Souhan wrote a column when he spoke with Joe Pohlad yesterday.
Yep.
And he came away thinking that they've been patient, but this may be a case where their patience may get tested, and that can lead to some action here. I'm trying to look at the whole package with Rocco. I think he's a solid manager. I think he's a good manager. I think if you're going to start blaming people, you have to look how this roster was constructed. The signing of Joey Gallo, the willingness to stick with Kepler when there was trade interest in Kepler last year, and they could have moved him and maybe got a little bit more in return than they would now. And maybe some other ways that they've filled out this lineup. So I think this would be on the front office a little bit in addition to Rocco. The one thing that Rocco has driven me up the wall about this year is how he's so quick to start pitching for guys once a different arm pitcher comes into games.
Yeah.
As soon as the team opponents try to turn over that lineup, Rocco's pitch hitting, and the Twins pitch hitters have been awful this year. And then the one game that drove me up the wall was the one where I can't remember who it was, but they started an opener. And once the Twins found out, it forced them to redo their lineup, but they started a bunch of guys for the opener. And then as soon as the opener left, they immediately brought in pinch hitters like in the third inning.
Yeah.
Faced the other. I'm like, no, that's over-managing to me. That's a little bit over-managing. Is that a fireball offense? No. To me, you have to have some other issues going on as well to pull the trap door open from under him. But like I said, if the Pohlad start looking at people to be held accountable for the season, I don't know how you can't look at how this roster was constructed in addition to what problems you may have with Rocco.
Well, that was my last question. Like, aside from Rocco, where do you think the job security would be for Derek Falvey and Thad Levine if things go poorly the second half?
This triangle of authority, Thad and Derek and Rocco, they did have the 2019 Bomber squad that won the division.
Yeah,
they did win the division in 2020. It wasn't that long ago. We saw the disaster the last couple of years with the bullpen and injuries, which haven't stopped. Their inability to find the right trainer or to find a way to stop these soft tissue injuries is a little concerning as well. But they've done a lot of good things. They built out the analytics department. They built out the baseball operations department in general. I think they've done a lot of good things here. But, the timing may be against all of them because the Minnesota sports fan is just so beat up over lack of success. Yeah. They're so beat up over the first-round playoff losses. So beat up over the fact that, other than the Lynx, the last, pro sports title here was 91. That maybe being patient isn't the virtue that it usually is in this case. So I'm not calling for heads to roll, but I wouldn't be surprised if their hot seat, if there's a legitimate hot seat under 2 or 3 butts going into 2024.
Man, you weren't kidding about pinch hitters too. 17 for 97 this year.
Yeah, it's been awful.
175 batting average, 517 OPS. That's not getting it done.
No, it's not at all. And if there was still no DH in the National League, I would argue that National League pitchers are probably doing better than Twins pinch hitters.
They might be. Well, let's move on from the Twins for a little bit. You're writing, I believe, about Aurora later this week, joining our not so illustrious crew of Minnesota teams that excel in the regular season, but 2 straight years now undefeated regular seasons have led to playoff defeats. Last year, at least it was in the championship game. This year, quarterfinals, right?
Yes. This is supposed to be different. This is supposed to be the team that's going to come in and show everybody the way. This is how you have a sports franchise in the state of Minnesota become successful and figure out ways to win the championship. The Aurora is supposed to be an exception to all this losing we have in the state of Minnesota. And all they've done now is just join the Wolves, the Wild, the Vikings, and the Twins, and teams that get in the postseason and just get waxed. They outscored people by a ton during the regular season.
Yeah.
The warning sign should have been in their first playoff game when they only won 1-0 against a team that they beat 7-0 earlier in the season. And then they get clipped in the next game, 1-0. So the league has caught on to the Aurora. The Aurora has joined the rest of the other professional men's sports teams here in their lack of playoff success. And all they're doing now is contributing to the sports playoff drought that has gone on in this town since the Twins reached the ALCS in 2002.
Yeah. It was the Twins in 2002, and then the Wild made it to the conference finals the year after that. And the Wolves made it to the conference finals after that. Vikings have played in a few NFC title games, but nobody's even been in a championship series in those 4 sports since the Twins in 91. It's amazing.
And I thought the Aurora were going to be different. They came in, they were so successful year 1. I figured year 2, they'd come in, bring back some of the same players, play the high pressure style that the coach likes to play, and just run over the league. And it's not been that easy. So
maybe next year. That's what we always say. Maybe next year.
Oh, God, yes. Oh, that phrase.
Maybe next year. Hey, before I let you go, you were over at the I kept seeing like media promotions about this. I didn't make it over there. You were over at the Wild crazy game of hockey on Saturday. What was that all about? What was that like?
It was a charity event in which they brought back a lot of Wild alumni to mix in with a few current Wild players and like local sports stars to have like this celebrity hockey game to raise money for charity. It's called the Crazy Game of Hockey, and it was actually entertaining. Tribune rink was full. The stands were full, and fans stood around the rink. So it's kind of SRO, and it was a good show. Wes Walls hopped on the ice and tried to play like he was still in his prime, and Joe Mauer showed some excellent stick handling. He had the puck inside the blue line, and 2 guys converged on him, and he turned into Patrick Kane and kind of skated through him to deliver a pass towards the net. It's like Mauer cannot do anything wrong.
Right.
Who else was there? Some local musicians, some OAR guys for the group OAR.
Right.
A couple kids were out there. A couple radio people, Paul Fletcher from Cities 97 and Zach Howerson from 100.3 Sight to Behold. The one person that was there that I didn't understand why. Oh, plus Neal III played. Hillary Knight from the USA hockey team played. But I'm standing there looking at this guy, and he's like humongous. I'm like, he's in the locker room going, who in the hell is this tall guy? And so then he walks out, and he's on skates. He's got a uniform on. It says Ostertag. It's Greg Ostertag playing in this event. The former 7-footer for Kansas.
Never played for the Wolves. What's he doing here?
I was trying to get to the bottom of that, but then Mauer showed up, so I had to kind of divert my attention.
Okay.
But I was like, Greg, do you live in Minnesota? He's like, no. I live in a small town just outside Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
So I was about to ask follow-up questions, but then my subject showed up, so I had to kind of
All right.
call an audible. But yeah, Greg Ostertag was in skating. in a charity hockey game. It was a sight to behold. Mark Parrish played. You know, he told me before the game, I'm just going to park in front of the net and tip pucks, which he tried to do. You know, it was entertaining. It was a fun time.
Cool. Well, it sounds like it was for a good cause as well. I would have loved to see Ostertag on skates, so maybe I'll go check it out next time if they do it again. You should always check out Velle E. Neal III's work in the Star Tribune at StarTribune.com. Velle, appreciate it. As always, we'll talk again soon.
Thanks for having me. Anytime.
Good stuff from Velle, as always. Thought it was interesting that he seems to put a little bit more of the onus on the team assembled by Derek Falvey and Thad Levine than he does Rocco Baldelli. I get that to a degree. I'm curious how this season plays out. They're at a point now where if they miss the postseason in this really weak division, that would be 3 years in a row, presumably below 500, not winning the division. Where would the patience be with ownership, and where ultimately would those decisions be made on who takes the fall? We'll see. It's going to be an interesting post-All-Star break. That All-Star game, by the way, is tonight. If you care to watch that, it's the slowest week in sports, but that should be something for you to get into this evening. Let's finish with the cooler. Huge news out of New York. The New York Times is disbanding its sports department. New York Times bought The Athletic a while back and has been kind of, I think it's been like 18 months or so, has been kind of running dueling sports departments since then, you know, with The Athletic covering all of the things it covers, and it's still having its the regular staff of sports writers. They are shifting all of those sports writers now to different roles at the Times, and will focus solely on the coverage it has from the Athletics writers in its pages. So that is quite the seismic shift over there. I mean, obviously, New York Times has won Pulitzers in sports. Maybe not known as much for its sports desk as it is for other reporting, but they have had some amazing writers over the years covering, you know, all of the teams they're covering, national and international news. So that is an interesting development in the evolution of sports writing. Just thought I should make note of that here in this space. That will do it for me here today. Randy Johnson expected to join me on Wednesday's show to talk a little bit of Gopher football, also to talk about Northwestern football, which just fired Pat Fitzgerald, their head coach, caught up in a hazing, all sorts of hazing allegations, and what he knew, what he didn't know. That's been quite the story, and I want to pick Randy's brain about that story as well. So look for that on Wednesday's show. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. I'm Michael Rand, back at it again tomorrow.